This week, we're a little light on updates coming out of HighLevel, but we do have a couple really cool features that I can't wait to show you. Stay tuned for this week's weekly breakdown coming up right now. All right, guys, first update that we have queued up for you out of HighLevel this week is an update to conditional sending inside the email builder. If you didn't know, you guys have the ability to hide and show elements inside of email templates that you put together, inside of email campaigns that you send. You have the ability to show or hide elements based on fields related to that contact. So this is really cool. An example of this would be like if you want to send a newsletter out every single week and you want to have a call to action in that newsletter that changes depending on whether or not the contact is a business related contact or the contact is a, well, I guess that's not really the right way, business versus personal. It would be more like a referral partner versus a consumer, right? So let's say you have a newsletter that 99% of this applies to everybody, but there's that 1% at the end, the call to action at the end that you want to vary based on whether this is a potential referral partner or this is a potential prospective client or a past client. Well, you have the ability to do that, and now that just got a little bit easier. It's a little bit confusing how they executed this, so I want to go through this really quick. So conditional logic, this has been here for a while. Any element inside of an email, you can come in here and you can click this conditional sending button. So by default, when you click on an element, this will be unselected. If you select this, it allows you to choose a condition. So I can say, all right, date of last demo. Okay, let's say this is, and then you can define it. Now, here's the problem with that. Okay, here's the problem with the way that this was set up is that what if I wanted to do this based, like using this as an example, what if I wanted to show or hide an element based on whether or not a person had performed a demo with us, had performed a call with us? So this would be like, in your case, like maybe you have a piece of content that you're sending out. There's an element inside of that you want to change whether or not you send based on whether or not this person has submitted an application with you. So you have an application date inside your CRM that you store. Now you have the ability to just leave this value blank where you didn't have that before. If you leave this value blank, what you're saying is, hey, when the date of, in this case, when the date of last demo is empty, then show or hide this element, right? Then execute this conditional sending logic right here. Whereas before you had to define something, which meant you couldn't really do anything based on the presence or absence of a value inside of the field. Now you have that ability to do that. Again, the reason why I say that they did this a little bit weird is normally you would have the ability to select from the drop down, like is null or is not null right here, and that's what tells you whether or not you're filtering for the presence or absence of a value. In this case, they didn't do that. They did it kind of lazy. I imagine that this is something that they're going to improve going forward, but they just say, hey, you can leave this blank now. Okay, so again, a little bit confusing if you've been using this at all. If you haven't, then don't pay attention to that piece. Just know that you can do conditional sending. And when you do conditional sending, if you leave that value blank, it's going to evaluate it as if you meant null in that field. All right, next up, we've got a pretty powerful update to the conversation AI bot inside of here. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but now it's actually ready for me to demo inside the account. So this is automated follow-up for your conversation AI bot, for your chat bot. So these are like telling your bot that if a lead stops engaging with it, to continue to follow up. I want to go through this, like creating the bots these days. The guided form setup, yes, I talked about it last week. Yes, it does make things a little bit easier. It also limits what you can do pretty significantly, and I can't find a way to change from the guided form setup to the prompt-based setup that has the more flexibility after you've already created the bot. So we're gonna keep an eye on this. I told you guys last week we're diving deeper into this stuff. This was the case, yeah, and in this case, this was what happened, and why we figured this out is because we have been spending a little bit more time in here. So if I come in here and I click create bot, it's going to default to our guided form setup. But in order to access this feature, from what I can tell, I have to go to the prompt. So I have to go to the prompt-based bot. So I hit that drop down, create prompt-based bot, and then I started from scratch and then ultimately created this bot right here. And let me move this out of the way. Okay, so we've got Emma, our bot. We've got the supported channels in here. We've got some basic, settings. None of this stuff has changed right here. Now, what has changed is if I go over to the bot goals, so this primary one, this is the one that I set up with the guided form setup. And when I go over to bot goals, it doesn't really give me the same flexibility that it does when I do the prompt-based setup. So if I go to the prompt-based setup, this is what it looks like. If I go to bot goals, it gives me the ability to select multiple actions in here. And so this to me is what most LOs would want to do in order to set up a bot that's going to engage with leads and book an appointment when it matters, to have the flexibility to trigger workflows if you need to. And then most importantly, this new one that we just identified, the auto follow-up, where we can say, hey, contact stop responding. We enable this scenario and we can set up predefined cadences here. And I don't know if there's a limit to the number. Okay, it looks like 5 is the max here. So it's like a mini, what we would call a ghosting campaign for somebody that stops engaging with you. This is like a mini version of that. So I would say 3 or 4 of these follow-ups is what you would want to set up, and then flip it automatically once they reach the end of that, automatically flip them into a ghosting campaign with more, like over a 30-day period or whatever. So really cool. Contact is busy, so this is like self-proclaimed. They say, hey, I'm busy right now, I can't talk, whatever, and you can trigger that, or you can configure your follow-ups there. Again, notice this trigger workflow. So at the end of this, I can say trigger a workflow, and then the ghosting campaign where I wait and see if they've responded, and if they haven't, then I start sending them more messages that are predefined. So lots of flexibility here. We're really excited about this. Again, I said last week that we were going to invest more time into conversation AI and learning the tool. We definitely are going to continue doing that. I've asked around a little bit to see if people have experience moving from CloseBot to conversation AI. So again, I promised you guys from the beginning when conversation AI came out that we would let you know as we invested more and more in it. And so that's what you're getting here, is you're seeing us starting to see these features that make us think, okay, this might be ready for the prime time. All right, next up is another really cool feature. Now, this came out a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't figure out how to execute it. I don't know if there was some sort of improvement or what. The feature announcement is just the ability to compare reports as far as your auditing report goes. But guys, this is really cool. I came in here, I ran it. It took about 5 minutes to run. So basically, it's free. It's in everybody's sub accounts automatically. So unless your agency is actively restricting you from accessing this, you should have access to it. So anybody that's watching this, go in and connect everything that you need to connect to run this audit report. That means at a minimum, have your Google My Business profile linked up so that it can recognize that who is who, essentially. But you come in here and you just click start report, and it does this thing where it's going to check your website performance, it's going to check your online reputation, your Google Business profile optimization, your tech stack. All of this stuff gets evaluated. So like, it's calling me out for not having a chat widget on our website. Probably right. We probably should have a chat widget on our website. So that was pretty cool to see. Business address is not verified. I didn't even know that was the case. And so we need to check, touch base there and figure out what's going on. This listing management stuff, this is really just to like help them sell more Yext accounts, which I definitely don't recommend for anybody. We don't even talk about it. So I would ignore that listings piece for the most part. But this is really cool. This is and then the other piece is you can now compare reports as well. So you can come in here and you can say, hey, I want to pull up a competitor and pull up other lenders in your market and see side by side how you're doing. So really cool. Jump in, check out this marketing audit report. Let us know what you see. Send us the PDF. Let us know if you have any questions on it. We're really excited to help people out more as they run these audits and see what's missing from their strategy and how we can help. All right, jumped over to the left side of the screen for a minute, but basically what I want to show you guys, a couple new updates to the page builder. Number one, autosave is live and out of labs for the funnels and websites. Now, one of the things that they've added in here is the ability to toggle this on and off. So even if it is out of labs, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have this autosave feature on. In order to turn it off, all you have to do is click on it, and you can click this button that says turn autosave off. I don't know why you would, considering it doesn't publish your changes, it just saves them. But if you want to do that, you do have that option. The other thing is they're working on an overhauled UX UI for this like right hand side here. I turned it on in labs. You don't have to. It's super early. Not a huge fan so far. The biggest thing that I noticed right out of the gates is that this stickiness section stickiness is like anchored up here and not in a collapsible section, when it's very rare that we do anything that we want this stickiness. Pretty much only the nav bar would be the only reason we would want it to stick when scrolling, and yet every single section has this at the top, just opened up by default. So little weird things like that. Doesn't seem like much of an improvement yet. Stay tuned. If you see that in labs, you might want to hold off on that if you're using the funnel and website builder. All right, lastly, we've got a couple updates that are going to be better off explained by HighLevel, shown with some images in here. The first one doesn't even require an image, really. If you guys have had issues integrating your Instagram account inside of HighLevel, inside of the social planner, a lot of those issues revolve around the requirement that these Instagram pages, Instagram accounts be linked to a business page. And so this caused a lot of issues where people just had a really hard time connecting their Instagram account. That is done. From what I understand, you now have the ability to connect directly to your Instagram account without any association to a business page. So this is going to make it a lot easier for people to connect and get up and running. If you have had issues getting connected with Instagram in the past, I would jump in and give it a shot. It should work, because again, now no association needs to exist with that business page. So all of those hoops that you have to jump through to get that association working properly no longer exist. Check it out. All right, next up is an update to calls and what you can do both on a call in the mobile app and after a call. Both of these are in the mobile app, so that's why I'm not showing this on screen. So essentially, they're improving the ability to do things on the call and after the call, like accessing and scheduling on calendars, accessing D&D and activating it directly from the call screen, taking notes while you're on a call, creating and managing tasks, and then viewing the full details of that contact. So that stuff used to not be possible while you were on a call. Now it is. After the call, they also give you some cool one-click options, quick actions here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Down here, we have these quick actions at the bottom once a call is ending. That's going to allow you to add a tag, send a quick follow-up message, send another call, whatever it is. Just a nice, sharp little improvement in the UI that's going to, or in the UX, I should say, user experience, that's going to make it easier for you guys to make sure that you're dispositioning calls properly, make sure that you're taking the proper follow-up actions, and staying on top of those relationships as best as possible. All right, lastly, and on the note of calling, we have an update to how billing is managed for call recording storage. So basically, call recording used to only be billed once a month, and so people don't really have a ton of insight into how much usage they're using for call recording. It's not very top of mind. It gets billed once a month. It gets lumped in with all their other charges. You can see it as a line item, but I just mean mentally it gets lumped in with everything else. So people don't really notice how much call recording and the storage of those recordings is affecting their billing. Now they're adding a daily charge, which I think is going to make it more top of mind, make you a little bit more mindful about those retention policies, which by default you're storing your recordings forever, but you can limit it so that it's only storing recordings for the last 90 days or for the last 30 days. Do these things that are going to save you a couple bucks here and there for your recording storage. So definitely check that out. If you haven't already, check to see what kind of storage you're using with call recordings and you know that you've been using a lot. Here's your cue to check that out. All right, guys, that's it for this week's weekly breakdown. Guys, if you're not in our community on Facebook, the HighLevel for Mortgage Pros community, definitely check that out. You can check out our website at highlevelformortgagepros.com and request your invitation to the community. Guys, we're talking about this stuff all the time. This is just a group of 1,300 LOs we're up to now, all using the HighLevel platform, all collaborating on what the best ways to use the platform to grow your mortgage business are. So check it out, guys. But thank you so much for watching this week's weekly breakdown. Until next week's episode, we'll see you at the top.